My analogy for it back then was it's like life was like a buffet table, because it really is. It's like all these choices and things that we can do. But it felt like I was on the bread and water part of the buffet table, and that's all I could do. And I couldn't, like, everything else I wanted to do, I got blocked because of money.
And I've been taking care of business every day, taking care of business every way. I've been taking care of business. It's all mine, taking care of business and working overtime. Work out.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm super happy because today we're going to interview a dear friend of mine. His name is Seabrook, an amazing person in
Everybody.
and out. How's it going, brother? He's in Vancouver while I'm in California.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you don't know Jay, Jay is a co-founder of Enriched Academy, and I've known Jay for years. Has been working for a long time in the personal finance sector, and actually is a really sought after speaker in this realm. So I know that you've done a lot of presentation very early on, also to schools. I think, were you like 17 or 18 years old? Like, well, how old were you?
Well, when I first started training high school kids, I was early 20s.
Early 20s, yeah. Showing up how to do it. And you've acquired, I think, one of your house was at 24 years old or something? The first
when I purchased. Yeah, I purchased my first property at 24, investment property, right? And I would have started teaching kids about it earlier, but I was probably suspended or something, like in high school. I wasn't the best student you ever met, that's for sure. Or
that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, before actually, I realized I went a little bit too fast, but tell us a little bit about what is Enriched Academy, so that people can have a little perspective as to what you guys are up to.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So we basically make financial education. We have unbiased start here, finish here, like A to Z financial education. And we're right across the country here in Canada so far. And we have about 20,000 students go through our course at the college, university, high school level across Canada. So that's what we do. That's our main focus.
Yeah, and before that, you had, I know that you were in a venture and you started, or you were with Dominion Lending, right? So you already had a lot of experience, I guess, since, like you said, like you were 24 years old. So what brought you into this realm? Is there such a passion of yours? Tell us a little bit more about what brought Jay to this whole world.
Yeah, so for perspective, I guess I already said I wasn't the best student in the world. Like, I certainly wasn't a smart person at all. A very average upbringing, didn't have good enough grades to go to university. I went to college in Canada and Ontario, couldn't get into university because they wouldn't let me go, type of deal, because my grades weren't good enough. So didn't start out from a very strong place from a business standpoint, but realized pretty quickly. I moved to Whistler when I was just finished college, going there to live this great lifestyle. Like, I was really excited about it. I thought you could, skateboard into work, and you could snowboard and you could golf in the same day there, like, which blew my mind. I thought that was the coolest thing. It's mountains, but then it's green in the valley. Anyway, I got there just like everyone else that moved to a place like Whistler. If you work there, you're probably dirt dead poor. And so I was making minimum wage, and I quickly realized I couldn't actually afford to do all the amazing things there. I could barely afford to work there and live there, but I couldn't actually do all the other stuff. And it was really good experience as a quite young person, like early 20s, because you're surrounded by abundance, and there's all these people, like, to afford to take you and your whole family to Whistler. And, it's one of the more expensive places you can go visit probably in North America. Yeah. And it's a beautiful, amazing place, right? With lots to do, but it's all really expensive. So it was this contrast, like, I'm surrounded by abundance, and my analogy for it back then was, it's like life was like a buffet table, because it really is. It's like all these choices and things that we can do. Mm-hmm. But it felt like I was on the bread and water part of the buffet table, and that's all I could do. And I couldn't, like, everything else I wanted to do, I got blocked because of money. And it drove me nuts. And I was just like, how do you open up the buffet table, basically, like at that age. And I had no idea how to do it. Like no one had taught me how to do it. And I didn't really have the education to do it. So that's where I started from. And that's really when we did start to do it, it was because of mentors. Like, and we started, I started having people get me onto the right books and stuff like that. And all of a sudden I was like, oh the answers are here. And, and the answers in this mentor that I have. And we realized there was a big need for the education, for financial education that would connect with people and actually inspire them, and where it wasn't devastatingly boring and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
That's really how it started. And then we just kind of kept going. And it was for 10 years doing financial education. We just did it really just for fun, like as a way to give back. That was our main reason for doing it, because we were in a business that did sales training. And to become better speakers, which is part of what our career journey was there. Before they would let us speak to a paid adult audience, or any adult audience, not even a paid one, they wanted to know we knew how to speak. So we had to do like Toastmasters. And then my mentor said, go out, why don't you set up a high school talk and go speak to them, and learn how to go do an hour, which was terrifying at the time of public speaking. And anyway, that's how it all kind of happened.
Yeah. And, I'm actually, because I'm sure, a lot of people right now are losing their jobs. They might be at the situation where the buffet is quite limited right now. And I'm wondering, because, you were in that situation. And so, and you said that one of the things that got you out was, and I remember because we're friends and you read a lot of books and you had a mentor. So if you can go back to that time, what would be the advice that the mentor gave you to kind of start to look at more than just bread and water?
Yeah, well, it was a really cool company we worked at. We did real estate agent training, and there was people in there that were making $30,000 a year. Then 2 years later, they were making like $200,000 a year, right? So you got to see what they did to go from that 30 to 200,000, I started then, like, just being in that environment was amazing, but just realizing that really all the, it's not like some mystery for everyone that made it happen. It's a lot of the common habits and disciplines. When you start to see what caused success, it was a lot of the same things. So you just start to do it yourself, really. And a lot of, like, I'd say one of the top things is just, again, self-education. Mm-hmm. It's just constantly being a sponge. And just knowing that you're probably 5 books away, or audio books, or a really good long multi-day course away from being like really sharp, like top 5% sharp at a topic, right? Like literally that's, to be world class, it takes a lot longer than that, like where you're top 0.00% at something, but you can get into becoming quite well versed in something like, call it real estate investing, pretty quickly. Like, honestly, like from starting at zero, you don't need to go to a 3-year university course on that. You can, go a long way in a few books, as an example. Yeah.
And what I also appreciate from you, Jay, is that there's, you've told me many times, it's like, it's good to have a great ideas, but it's all about execution, right? You read this book, that's fine, 4 or 5, okay, but then what's next, right? And I'm assuming that one key element, a component of that growth is the environment, is being surrounded with people that, been through there and can help you to move forward. So, if you can just kind of summarize that little aspect of it, what could help people to get out of the situation that they don't like right now, whether it's financial or anything? I'm sure there's something about mindset in there.
Yeah, no question. It's a really, really good question that you have. Like, to me, it would be, unfortunately, I would just say this, is that it's probably going to be boring. Like, it's the little things that you do consistently every single day, over and over and over again for years, that no one cares about for 95% of it, but you do that stuff and there's no real glory in it in the moment, but it's what causes everything else later. And Darren Hardy is someone that I really like, and I don't know if some of the people watching this, who Darren Hardy is. He's got a really great book called The Compound Effect. Yeah, it talks about this overall principle, but it's those small things that you can barely tell the difference in the moment, but they all stack up, and they create the success longer term. And the other thing that he said, I think it was in that book, and I loved it. He said, life is like 95% grind, 5% glory, really. And if you think about it, it really is that. Like there's that time in your life, but you need that grind, or the glory wouldn't even be the glory. It wouldn't even exist. So anyway, I hope that makes sense.
It sounds to me that you're almost describing, I'd be curious, but without naming it right now, what would be your definition of resilience?
Resilience would be, for me, like basically your ability just to stand back up and just to get your ass kicked, for lack of a better term, and own it, whatever caused that to happen to you, take responsibility for it, and get a little bit smarter every time, right? And then stand back up and keep on going. That would be, for me, resilience.
And would you say also, based on the definition you gave with Darren Hardy, knowing that the result hasn't come yet, and you still keep at it, because you know that 5% is going to show up, like the compounding effect of all these efforts. So, because sometimes, you know, we're just one thought away, one contact away, one deal away from really changing a whole situation, right? So, and there's a lot of people that might stop and get discouraged. And to me, resilience is still going at it, even if you haven't seen anything yet.
You got it. It's also, I think, being open to whatever external inputs you're getting, because usually they're pointing you in the right direction. You might not be in the right direction, but you think you are, and you're finding yourself kind of knocked down, and you're dusting off a lot. Maybe you're not listening enough to what's coming at you, where you just readjust, and it's readjusting. You don't need to blow up the entire plan, right? But you just readjust gradually, and then you find that, you know, where that path that you were supposed to be on, I think.
Yeah, and for your path, I mean, and you know, before we go through some sort of there's no such recipe. Everyone can apply different things. I guess what's important is being consistent at least one thing. That's my personal opinion, versus trying one thing, it doesn't work, trying another one, it doesn't work. From what you're saying, like the compounding effect of something that you keep on iterating based on the feedback will lead you to success. And I know that you're also someone that maybe not everyone knows, but you've been through something very dramatic, you know, in terms of your own personal life and a struggle. Can you, I know you know what I'm referring to. So tell us a little bit about one story of struggle that, you know, was difficult and that you overcame.
Yeah, great question again. And like, you know, from a life or death standpoint, like would have been going through cancer. So I had something called melanoma when I was 22 years old. That's like a skin cancer. I didn't take it seriously. I kind of thought when you're 22, you're basically, the last thing you think about is a serious illness, honestly, when you're healthy and that kind of thing already. So I had like a mole on my skin, and it kept growing, and I had it tested. It turns out it was melanoma. So it wasn't really too serious yet, but melanoma is the most dangerous skin cancer. I just thought skin cancer could grow on your skin. I didn't realize it could get inside your body. So they removed it. I just didn't take it seriously. It reoccurred when I was 27, so 5 years later. And this time it was quite serious because it had gotten inside my body. It was growing in my body. So I had to have like a surgery, have lymph nodes removed. At that point, when I got the diagnosis, I did my homework on it. I had about a 72% mortality, or, you know, 72% chance I was going to die within 5 years, if you looked at the stats. So I had 3C melanoma. So there was a, you know, 27% chance or whatever that I would survive. I had no doubt I would survive at all, never questioned it. But you know, I guess just kind of summing up some of what we were already talking about, the way I took it on was that, what did I do to cause it? I didn't really look at it like, yeah, because, you know, if you have disease, it's like dis-ease. You know what I mean? Somewhere within me is the way I looked at it. Like, what, you know, and just being totally opening myself up to everything, and examining myself. So I used it as an interlude in my life, let's call it, to really deeply look at everything I'd been doing up until then. And I found there was several things that I could look at, right?
Yeah.
And you know, so I made lots of changes as a result of that, but it was a brilliant experience in retrospect. It's, yeah, it made me a better person, it made me much more self-aware and that kind of thing. And I
So
needed
do
it.
you mind sharing what are the areas that you because I'm thinking, wow, you know, skin cancer is on the surface, is your skin, this is the biggest organ of all, and then where did it come from? Like what was that disease?
There was a good amount of insecurity, I think, that I had internally. There was certainly like the way I was living, like stress and that kind of thing. I was working out, but I wasn't eating that as healthy as I could have. I changed my relationship, as an example. My career at the time, I wasn't happy. Like I just wasn't happy in many aspects of my life when I really stopped and looked at it. So I changed many things, like, you know, several things, like diet, relationship, where I lived, were all major changes then.
Yeah, wow. So that's interesting because to me that speaks to my heart. And my godfather always told me I was 16 years old. He's like, if you want to be happy in life, do what makes your heart come alive. That's pretty much it. And what I'm hearing is that you remove things that were not empowering you, right? Like the relationship that was probably stressful and negative or toxic. I don't know what that was. And then the job that's not fulfilling. And was that like I guess you knew, and you read books about that, I'm pretty sure, to be able at that age to take responsibility and say, where's my responsibility in this? Is there a book that you read that helps you to have that mentality? Because that's that at 20, at that age, that's remarkable.
Yeah, I probably, like, I was into all kind. You know, I was doing a fair bit of self development. I always have since I was about 22, 23. So there's no question I had help, right? It wasn't just nothing's ever been because I was smart. I don't think.
And here's the conclusion. Thank you very much for showing up. No,
Yeah, it's
wow.
true though. It's true. It is. I like saying that, and we do it with Enriched when we train people about money, and we tell our own story about starting off in debt, right, and not having a clue what the hell we were doing, and then gradually getting smarter, very gradually, and then getting to a place where you don't have debt, but you have financial freedom. And you don't need to work anymore, right? Really cool to experience that. It took 15 years of going for it, but the reason I say that is because there's a lot of people that were much smarter than me. Literally, like if I went to school with you and we were in the same grade, you probably outperformed me, you probably didn't think I was that bright a kid. I was nothing special. So I like saying that because it's really someone like I could do it, or my business partner. He didn't even graduate from high school, and same type of, you know, like heavy net worth by age 40. I have many other people I've been associated with in business. One of the wealthiest people I know got kicked out in grade 10, type of deal. And anyway, it's often just being very open to what's around you, and then just putting yourself through it and just go pushing it forward and not getting too stuck in a particular comfort zone. And that's what's worked for us. But it's been being very observant around us to see what's working well, and then taking bits and pieces that work for us, I guess.
Yeah, being listening and also taking responsibility. And what I like also is that, and so for the people to know, like you guys, when you started at Enriched Academy, you know, Dragon's Den, you guys went to Dragon's Den and all of the judges wanted to bid into your company, and you had a successful deal. And I don't know what's the percentage, but there's not that many companies that has one, first of all, 5 guys interested, and 2 having a deal, right?
Yeah, no, it was cool for sure. But it wasn't again, even then, we really practiced hard. But if you watched our pitch on Dragon's Den, like if you went online and searched Enriched Academy Dragon's Den, you'd see our episode, and it wasn't like we were pretty rattled, right? Like, and we didn't, you know, it looked okay. But yeah, like it's been in everything since then that made it work. It's all the little stuff, you know. Again, it's like getting to the dusting off and getting back up and reinventing a little bit, and or just tweaking gradually to get to where we are now as a company. And you know, we're now really becoming a more serious company, but it's taken years to get here.
So what I'm thinking of is, since, you know, I remember the story you said about being in Whistler and the bread and water and, you know, reading the good books, having the good mentors. So, and also your mindset that you had to take responsibility. So from that mindset perspective, or a mindset perspective, how would you walk through some people that may be suffering in terms of having debt financially, and what are you telling them? Because, you know, you're having great testimonials of people that are going through the program, and, you know, they're not financially free right now. Absolutely
No.
not. And they were able to build that up to that point. So tell us a little bit more about that process. And I'm curious if there's any mindset, even with the lesson you had from your melanoma, or how do you say it? Like, sorry.
Melanoma? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I would say if I could give you an activity or just share an activity,
Yeah.
one thing that would have the biggest impact on somebody that's you feel out of control right now financially and it's stressing you out, or you're just not even where you want to be, or you know you could be doing better. Check in with this one number one time a month. It's called your net worth. And we teach it in our event. You've been there, Francis, so you know what that is. And a lot of you watching this, you know what net worth is. But you basically take everything you have has value, and then you have everything on the other side of a sheet that you have debt, and you subtract the value from where you have debt, like something you have that has some value. That's your net worth, right? So, but you fill the sheet out, you do it one time. It takes 20 minutes, but then we say what we teach people to do is check in with that number monthly. Mm-hmm. Now, you might be thinking right now, how does that help my number get better? It's not helping my income go up. It's not helping what I spend right now necessarily go down. You'll be surprised if you start doing that for 6 months. Just check in one time a month. So once you create your net worth, check in with it once a month and update your numbers, and you're going to start making better choices, period. Right? And it's not about your income for most people. It's about where can I start to save money? And people when you start to see the number move in the right direction, people get really motivated. And what we tend to focus on will grow as well. So if you start to focus on that, you will expand your net worth. But the best thing that will happen is you get this tremendous sense of control over it, which is the coolest thing. Like, that's what we find happen with people that do it for a little while. They're like, I used to feel totally out of control with my personal finances. This check-in that takes me 5 minutes a month gives me this feeling of control, because you do have control.
Interesting. And and it's also, I guess, in everything in terms of mindset, it's starting with the awareness.
Yes.
Right? Knowing where you are first. And then if you check, I'm assuming that by checking every month, it could disturb some pain. And at the same time, like, okay, I got to change this. This is really not going in the right direction. Where can I save? And I like the fact that you're saying we start by saving. You know, we haven't even done anything with the revenue yet, the income, but just with saving, I'm sure that there's people that would be surprised how much they can save, right?
Well, we work with people on household spend, and the average person that focuses on that, on what they're spending each month, will save $950 from now on per month. So $12,000, $12,000 a year that they thought, I'm pretty good with my spending. We're quite tight here. And then they start tracking, and we get them to track it for a month, their daily spends. And then when you have to sit there and punch it in, and don't use software that'll just suck your data in for you, because you're cheating, and it's too easy, and you're not getting in touch with your bad spending choices that people are making. And those little $5 coffee shop or whatever it is, that stuff will add up depending on who you are. I mean, we've seen people that literally will cut. The highest example I've seen was someone, they cut $5,000 a month off their hard spend that they were doing. So $60,000 a year. But again, the average person is about $12,000 a year. That you can now use that to pay off your debt. Yeah. And then, or if you're through paying off your high interest debt, use that to save and invest. And it doesn't seem exciting at first, but you'd be blown away in 5 years what people could do. Like, in a year, it's not that exciting. It's just not. But in 5 years, that's how Kevin and I did it. Like, people are like, how did you get financial freedom? From debt in your mid-20s to financial freedom before age 40. This was it, right? It was just doing this stuff, looking at our net worth. I started checking my net worth monthly 13, 14 years ago, because I had a mentor, and I asked him, and I was like, how did you get so well off financially? Because he didn't look that special on the surface when you met this guy. Yeah. And I knew he had this really good net worth. And he just said, you know what? He said, I started tracking my net worth. And so we tried doing it. And we asked him, how often do you do it? He said monthly. And as soon as within 3 months, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe everyone doesn't do this. It's so powerful.
So is there a theme that always comes back, comes up when in terms of saving, that you see it all the time. You can almost say, I already know there's going to be 2 or 3 categories. People are spending way too much money.
Yeah.
And yeah.
100%. It's unfortunately, it's the biggest expenses. It's housing. People in North America, we have dramatically more square footage. We have much flashier residences typically. And the percentage of our income that goes into our housing is disproportionately higher than a place like Europe. So you go to somewhere like Europe, they live in less square footage. They have the second biggest offense is vehicles. We like the number 1 selling vehicle in Canada, and I suspect it's the same in the States, is a F-150 pickup truck. I'm going to bet it's a truck of some kind in the States, which is the biggest vehicle you can drive. That's, anyway, so
sucking the gas also,
yeah,
just in terms of gas, right? Like, I mean,
for $50,000, right, or whatever it is, and then we get a new one every 2 or 3 years, right? So that, like, if you want to see the offenses, it's what we like to share. Like, the one lesson I like to share is definitely you want to look at pennies, like pinching pennies, but start with the hundreds, right? Where can you pinch hundreds? Look at where you live, look at what you drive. And I promise almost everyone we meet that isn't where they want to be financially is overdone it on housing or overdone it on vehicles.
so
right?
are you suggesting at the end of the day that some of the people could decide to, well, I mean, if they really want to make a change, they can realize that they don't need that much square footage. And
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Especially if you own the house. But we've had people that literally sold their place, that went through our education, sold their principal residence, moved into a smaller place, drove their vehicle instead of getting a new one every 3 years. They now drive it for 8 or 9 or 10 years. It will change your life. Now, if you're a really big vehicle person, that's hard to do, but you don't have to do it forever. We're just talking about doing it for long enough that you get this big financial base built up. And then you can do whatever you want to do. But until you have that more of a base built up and you're feeling paycheck to paycheck and you're stressed out, and if you lost your job, do not know how you're paying your bills this month. That is a horrible place to be. I've been there. This is what will make a difference for you. Start tracking your net worth right away, monthly. Please watch what happens. Do it for at least 3 months before you judge it. Yeah. And then start to look at where you can reduce your expenses in your home, in your vehicle, or your top expense areas for almost every, for the average person. Look there first, and then you can get into all the other stuff. But the other stuff is more dollars and cents. Yeah. The other stuff is hundreds of dollars. That's why we say start there.
That's amazing. And you know what? I can relate to that. And you and I know that I had a good real estate career. And what I remember is that people are spending most of their time in about 500 square foot. That's where they spend most of their time. So where is that? That's the kitchen. That's, living room, kitchen area. That's where you spend your time. And so do we need like a 2,500, 3,000 square foot place or maybe less? But the reality is that, this is not even what, and I've also lived it because also that I was living in Montreal. And Montreal, I had a 1,400 square foot apartment. And then when I moved to Vancouver, my first apartment was 700 square foot. Yeah. And I don't think my happiness was really impacted that much because, I had good friends around. I had played volleyball with you when we first met, and it was amazing years. And you just realize you don't need that much to be happy.
Yeah, and we say try to be, like, if you look at your net or your after-tax income, be not more than 30% going into just your housing costs. That's not your food. That's like your housing and cost to live there and your utilities to live there. And be below 10% with your vehicle. Try to be even less with your vehicle. Housing's tough. Like if you live in Vancouver, where I live, it's expensive. And there's a lot of people that are going to be over 30%. We're just saying that if you look at people that do really well financially, because we've made a study of this now for going on 20 years. This is all that we do as a business. And looking at it, the people that do the best are under housing and they're under vehicling, period. Like the people that the stealth millionaires that, like, there's no way that guy's a millionaire, that girl's a millionaire, no chance. And it's because they don't look it, because they're not dressing it, they're not living in it, they're not driving it. People don't think that they are, but those are the people that often are, because they don't get caught up in the flashy stuff as much.
And I also remember that there's a big concept for the people that have the privilege of having stocks or, you know, of pension funds or, you know, investments somewhere, I know that you guys are also taking a look at a one little criteria that can change the name of the game, right? The fees that the people are
Yes.
charging, that could be thousands and thousands of dollars on over. Maybe you can explain and expand a little bit on that for the
Sure.
ones that, you know.
Yeah, so what Francis is referring to is the fees you would pay to your financial advisor. I love financial advisors. You just got to make sure you have a good one. And people don't really know if they have a good one or not often, but there's a fee that they charge. In Canada, it's called the MER, which doesn't make any sense to normal people, but it's basically it's their management expense ratio, and it's what percent of all the assets that they're managing for you that they charge. In Canada, we have some of the highest fees in the world. If you're watching this from the States, you guys are doing better than we are. The advisor fees have come down there. Canada, it's still like one of the top fee countries in the world. So you got to dig in on your investments to know, and it's a bit deeper than that. But I mean, we take people through a financial advisor question kit. It's very thorough. So you can, and also how do you analyze each line of your investment portfolio, so you can see exactly what you're being charged. It's really important.
I love that. What I love is that, you know, for me, I'm thinking there's so many ways that people can save even without thinking about generating more incomes. Because then, you know, you also go through the investment properties availability and you have a story on that as well. So, I mean, I will definitely share to the group your website, because I think that you do have online courses. You have also events that are coming up, and they're all, from what I've heard and from what I've seen also from my own eyes, it's super well organized, super well done, and people are loving it. Their testimonials are, and you track your results as well, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, we track everyone that comes in. What are your numbers, like your net worth, your household spend monthly, your financial advisor fees, your credit score, and if you have any credit card debt, and then what are those numbers at the end when you're through our process. And we see some major improvements, like our average net worth goes up over $50,000. So as an example, right? So that's what we love, man. That's why we're doing it. And it's all the stories we're getting, and just people too that just were like, I was out of control with my money, it was causing me stress. I didn't know what to do, or I was going to get divorced because of our money. Like, and we hear this, and like, now we're not, like, literally this saved my marriage, because now the stress, we have control together, and the stress, because we have the control, it's taking the stress away.
It's one of the biggest stressor in life, right? Like the finance. I don't exactly.
Yes. Even during COVID, right? We're still, I guess, in it, but we're coming out of it. But the number one stress wasn't health. It wasn't personal health. It was personal finance. Still, even in the last 6 months.
Imagine this. Hey, those conversations, I can have it for hours and hours, and I have like maybe only two, three questions left in my mind. So, because I love that you started with the fact of a mentor. So, what was actually the best advice you've received, either in life or in business, that you can share to us?
Man, you know what? I'm actually looking at my notes on that one, because there's so many different things. But like, what struck me when I wrote it down, best advice, self-education. I would say it would just be like, hey, why don't you read? I think for me, what turned on the light for me with self-education was my first job that I was actually kind of psyched about, where I wasn't just like making minimum wage. It was a phone sales job, and which sounds terrible, probably, if you're listening to this. Oh my God, a phone sale. And it was for me too. At the beginning, I was just like, oh God, I'm doing phone sales. But it was a way to a different life for me, and nothing, like, I didn't have any other options at that point, but I could earn, like, basically without a ceiling. I had the chance for the first time. The first week I was making sales calls, I was really bad at it. I got like 0 sales. So I had no natural ability. I remember I went to a Brian Tracy seminar. You would know who Brian Tracy is. I don't know if other people watching this do. He's like a legend from 20 years, but he's like 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, he had all kinds of audio books and stuff on sales. So I went to one of his live seminars, and I just took all kinds of notes. And he gave me some objection handlers that day. Like, he said, does anyone here ever hear this before? Let me think about it. Right? And I'm just like, every day, like people say that to me every day. And I just be, okay, cool. I'll call you back in a couple days then. And I would never get them on the line again. Right. So he gave an objection handler for that. And at the end, he's like, I'm saving this right to the end because you guys stuck around for the whole day. And I was like the guy in the front row that was like super into it. I used the next day, I swear, my first sales call. Someone said at the end, I was trying to close them. They're like, let me think about it. And I used the objection handler.
Well, now we want to know. We want to know, what was that objection handler? We got to know this.
I'll definitely share it. So, but it was, and I made the sale, and like the analogy he used, he's like, think about it, like you're like a boxer, and you're trying to get a sale, but it's in this person's best interest. For starters, it's always got to be in the person's best interest.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't do it, right? But you know if you know what it is. And now, if you're using a boxing analogy, you're in the corner, you're about to be knocked out. He's like, you're just trying to slip around for another chance, type of deal. And he said, so, hey, you know what? I totally appreciate you need to think about it. I would too. It's a pretty decent decision to make. But do you mind if I ask what it is that you need to think about? Is it the whatever you think it might be? Because all you're trying to do is get to the true objection and then address that objection as effectively as you can. Doesn't mean you're going to get the sale, right? But it's one more shot at it, because otherwise you're gone. Like the thing's over. So I tried it, and the first time I used it, I made the sale. And I was just like, the light went on, and I was like, I started reading every sales thing I could to master a skill that I was terrible at, which I became good at, like quite good at. And the only reason I did was because I read a few books on it back then and practiced it consistently. But then all of a sudden, the income went way up and the ceiling blew off the roof, like it was gone. And all of a sudden I could reach a different place in life. It was cool, because of self-education. So
all of a sudden you were able to have the smoked salmon on the buffet more than the bread and water.
Yeah. It still took a few years. I wish it was that fast. It was still a few years later before I really was able to do that stuff. But I mean, it was definitely a good start.
Yeah, thank you for sharing the objection handling. And I think I hear also about compassion in a way, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you know that it's in the best interest, like otherwise, why selling it, right? But everything that we do is really in the best interest of the person, and it's removing the fear and also allowing them to be empowered. And
totally.
This is how I see it. So this is the lens that I put before I make a sales call. But for me, a sales is more a conversation, and it's a no is maybe later, right? Like and I like the fact that you just want to discover first what's the true objection.
We're like that with Enriched. Just like you ask a few questions if they're willing to share with you, and you just see if they're a good fit or not. And then, and if they're not, you know what? You really shouldn't sign up for our program. And like we do money back guarantees on everything we offer too. And we say if you go, but you have to finish it. So if you sign up and if you finish it, you want your money back then, we're happily give it back. We don't want your money at that point if you don't think it was worth it. Sincerely. So if you do that, it's sort of hard. Not like it's pretty easy to feel good about it. You know what I mean? Because you genuinely feel good about someone being a product fit for starters, or you wouldn't offer it. And then when they are, and you get them to make that choice, they always have that other thing to fall back on. So
I love that, and that's a true differentiator. I think it's really putting the what's the expression? Where your mouth is. You could probably help me. This is you're accountable to your results. Well, how did you say it?
Money where the mouth is, or something like that.
Exactly. That's it.
I probably said it wrong.
It's and a final question would be, it's kind of trying to know where you project yourself and where you see yourself in 25 years from now. Like, who's going to be Jay? Where are we going to see him in 25 years from now? I know it's a big stretch, but who
knows, man? You know what? I would say this. I would say if I was good, like my future me coming back and telling myself something now would probably just be keep going, just keep doing what you're doing. Ever since I just started really trying, you know what I mean? Like probably, and if you're trying or not. And if I'm saying, like I'm sort of speaking to anyone watching, like if you've been all in or not with your life and with what you're committed to. And if you're not, there's always kind of that, because I was like that for a lot of years. And then, but I'd say since call it 25 years old, I went all in at 25, because what I'd done up until then wasn't getting me where I want, you know, I could tell it wasn't leading me where I wanted to go. But then since then, there's absolutely nothing I would have done differently. Just, I made lots of mistakes and did all kinds of not smart things, but at least I was all in the whole time, and I was just getting redirected, right, to where I needed to be. So just stay all in, I would say. Now, there's also a time in your life you need to ease off and enjoy yourself, no question, right? When do I do that? That's sort of the question back to myself. I don't know. I'm thinking I'm 43, probably 55, but like if you're already living a really epic lifestyle, like taking lots of time off your business and doing everything you want to do, which I've been doing, maybe you keep going like Warren Buffett and you're 90. Next thing you know, what, you just stay going the whole time. Who knows?
Thanks for sharing that. I totally relate to the all in. To me, this is the best way to live life. And I think I'm going to end with, and your comment on your own quote, which is, it's not the material possessions you acquire during your pursuit of career and financial goals that are important. It's who you become during the process that is truly rewarding.
100%, man. Yeah, it really becomes the case. You can't take that away from somebody. You can take material things away. You can't take that away, the character that gets built and forged.
Yeah, well, you know, it's been a real pleasure, my friend, to have you share your wisdom. Is there anything that, you know, you'd like to share before we leave? You know, you've shared so much. I love it. You took responsibility. You self-education. You were mentored, you listened, you were able, and you know, it doesn't take rocket science. Sometimes, you know, you're not the best in the room, but you keep at it. That's the compounding effect of all the efforts while you're learning on the way, and that leads you where you are, going all in a journey. So yeah, is there anything you'd like to share, my friend?
No, hey, just very inspiring what you're doing and the community that you're building. And for anyone that's watching this and you actually watched this far into this, it means you're doing that with life and lots of other things, and just keep doing that. Just keep seeing things through, and repetition over time. Watch what happens. Just give it some time.
Thank you so much. And where can we find you? So Enriched Academy, I know that you have some even free resources available to people. Is there one that comes in your mind that we should share to the group?
Yeah, I think we have a free version of our course. So if you just go to enrichedacademy.com, we have like a trial version of our course. Check it out if you want. I'm Jay at enrichedacademy.com, JAY at enrichedacademy.com. If you have any questions, I can help you out at all. Anybody for whatever reason watching this, please be in touch.
I love it. Hey, it's an honor to have you on this show, my friend. Thank you so much, Jay. And long life to Enriched Academy. I know what you guys are doing is phenomenal. It keeps on growing. So thank you for sharing this wealth of knowledge to people.
You too. Thanks. Have a good one, everybody.
My friend.
All right. Talk to you.